Picture this. You really like someone, but you're not sure if they like you too. So you look for signs. Are they holding eye contact, standing close, playing with their hair, maybe laughing a bit too loudly at your jokes? It seems like there might be something there, but then you wonder, perhaps they're just being friendly. They like you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're into you romantically. In this video, I'll show you how to find out if someone actually finds you attractive and how to avoid getting stuck in a limbo of uncertainty. Hi, my name is Tom Bellamy. I'm a neuroscientist and writer, and I blog all about limerence, an obsessive form of intense infatuation, at livingwithlimerence.com. I'm also the author of the book Smitten, which explains what limerence is, how neuroscience can help us make sense of it, and how to recover from it. Right, so how do you find out whether someone finds you romantically attractive without making a fool of yourself? Well, there are some classic signs to look out for, and that's a good starting point. So let's start with body language. This is what most people think about when they start trying to read another person, and it's undeniable that arousal, excitement, and desire show themselves physically. I've talked about some of these signs in a previous video on how to tell if someone is experiencing limerence. I'll put a link in the description below. And there are a few key indicators. Eye contact, for example, is an especially potent sign. We like to look at people that we find attractive, and that can lead to a distinctive pattern of behavior where we realize that we've looked a little too long, so we glance away, but then wonder how the other person's reacted to our gaze, so we look back. So, long eye contact, embarrassed quick break, then look back. Similarly, our bodies telegraph arousal. A racing heart, sweating palms, shaky hands, nervous laughter. These are all cues that give away excitement. Or is it anxiety? Another classic example of a body language cue that supposedly signals romantic interest is playing with your hair, especially for women. So the idea is that this is an unconscious act of preening or grooming that signals excitement. Or is it nervousness? Now, some people try to elevate reading these body language signs into an art form. They analyze body leaning angles. They use mirroring and pacing and leading to try and build rapport. And they grade the levels of blushing or eye contact or breathing rate or lip licking. The problem is that in reality, all of these cues can be misread or misunderstood. And it's also quite hard to read them whilst also behaving like a normal person. The reality is that these clues are subtle and hard to interpret confidently. Someone can be pleased to see you and light up when you come near and smile, give you a hug and seem really happy, but it's just because they like your company as a friend. And somebody could be nervous and excitable because they're worried about making a good impression, or even because you make them uncomfortable. Likewise, some people shut down when they're nervous. They flatten their expressions and they mute their body language. So they like you, but the emotional storm of being near you inhibits their body, concealing their intent rather than giving it away. And finally, of course, not everyone is neurotypical. For some people, all these subtle cues are easily missed, not understood, and not returned. Eye contact doesn't have the same meaning. Social signs are misconstrued or not perceived at all. People aren't as easy to read as we'd like to believe. So, is there something a bit more obvious, a bit more reliable as a measure of romantic interest? What about flirting? Yeah, okay, so if someone is leaning in close, laughing at your jokes, gazing into your eyes, accidentally brushing against you whenever they can, winking suggestively and making constant sexual innuendo, you might be onto something. But flirting is another behavior that is fraught with misunderstandings. People's motives for flirting can be very variable. Some people see it as sport, just a playful way to add a bit of sparkle and excitement to social life. Others use it as a way of communicating admiration, but without any intention to act on their desire. So it's a sort of sidelong way of saying, I find you attractive and I'd like you to know that, but I'm not going to do anything about it. Some people flirt with everyone, others only flirt with the select few that they really like. And of course, people vary in their prowess for flirting. Some are like virtuosos and flirt with an easy charm that's very flattering and makes other people feel special. Others have the grace of a bull in a china shop, barging around with crude jokes and clumsy innuendo. Finally, flirting can potentially carry a high risk in the wrong context. So flirting at work, for example, is fraught with danger. You might be seen as trying to gain favors or manipulate other people or even sexually harassing a co-worker. So there are obviously times when flirting is a bad idea. So where does all this leave us when it comes to figuring out if someone else actually does like us romantically? Well, in a bit of a mess, frankly. The fundamental problem with relying on reading body language or motives for flirting is that we can never actually know what's going on in other people's minds. We can't reliably infer their intentions from outward signs of arousal. The signals are just too ambiguous. The signal-to-noise ratio is low. So your own preconceptions will shape how you interpret them and respond. Okay, so maybe the people who are really infatuated, who are limerent for you, for example, will struggle to hide the signs of attraction from bursting out. But for more subtle signs, it's easy to misread platonic attraction as sexual or romantic interest. So someone who really likes you, but only as a friend, or someone who admires you and lights up with the enthusiasm of a fan. Or someone who is flattered by the attention that you give them and enjoys being desired. In fact, most of us are actually quite poor at recognizing when other people are flirting with us. There's a good body of evidence that both men and women routinely misinterpret romantic and sexual interest. Men have a tendency to overinterpret female friendliness as sexual interest. Women have a tendency to underinterpret male sexual interest as friendliness. Both sexes tend to assume that other people are more motivated by sex than they are. Now, that in itself is part of the tragicomedy of romantic life, but things can get even worse. If we spend too long scrutinizing and analyzing how someone feels about us, we can end up going down a rabbit hole of rumination and obsession that ends up making us want them even more. Hesitation and indecision adds to the uncertainty of mind reading, and that can lead into an unexpected trap. They become a central puzzle in your life, a reward that you can't secure, a prize that you're desperate to win, but which always seems just out of reach. Those are the perfect psychological conditions for reinforcing limerence, a romantic infatuation that can escalate into addiction to another person. What's even worse about that is that limerence wrecks your judgment. Once you're in a state of intense infatuation, you're so desperate for reciprocation of romantic feelings that you overinterpret like mad, seeing hints everywhere and seeking signs of hope in everything they do. You're in an altered state of mind, and that makes it even less likely that you'll be able to read them accurately. Right, so I've spent most of the video casting doubt on all the classic ways to find out if someone is attracted to you. It's time for a bit more optimism. So when you're faced with a signal-to-noise problem, the simplest solution is to reduce the noise. You can't really rely on indirect measures of revealed attraction. You have to be direct. You have to cut through all the noise and uncertainty by just coming out and expressing your own feelings honestly. How and when to do that will depend on the specific circumstances that you're dealing with, and there are also different expectations and strategies, of course, depending on whether you're a man or a woman and on your sexual orientation. But directness is always the best route forwards. So, the first step is to look for objective signs that there's no hope. So if the person that you're attracted to is married or flirts with everyone they meet or is unavailable or unsuitable for some other reason, whether or not they're attracted to you is irrelevant. It's a lost cause. So it's best to just stop trying to solve the riddle and walk away. Now, assuming instead that you and they are free to act, by all means, try and read their body language and flirting behavior. Now, if there isn't much signal to be seen, don't give up hope, but do be cautious about how to express yourself. Unless you're really skilled at banter, just go for simple honesty. I think you're great. I like you a lot. How do you feel about me? Or just the totally straightforward, would you like to go on a date? Now, you might feel that you're risking a lot with this direct approach, but the pain of rejection is a short, sharp blow to the ego. Compare that to the long, slow agony of falling into unresolved limerent obsession. That can go on for months, even years. It really is no contest. Now, if you do think that you can see signs of attraction from them, the same direct approach works, but you can also be a bit more daring. You're gorgeous. Want to go on a date? Directness takes all the uncertainty out of the situation. You can't hover in the friend zone anymore, hoping that maybe you'll persuade them into a romantic relationship one day. And you also won't descend into the hell of limerent rumination if you've asked a direct question and got a direct answer. So the point of this is that the hints and the clues and the signs and the person reading should only ever be a prelude to actually taking action. They can certainly determine how confident you feel about taking that chance, but the only way to know for sure is to cut through the noise and be direct. Developing the resilience to risk rejection but seek certainty is a much more valuable skill for finding love than developing the ability to measure pupil width and breathing rate. And as a last point, it's also worth pointing out that some people out there know all these body language signs and they use them to manipulate others. They test how responsive someone is to their subtle signs of attraction in order to determine whether or not they could land that person. So these players enjoy the thrill of the chase. They get a high from seducing others into falling in love with them. They plant false hope so that other people get hooked on them because they get emotional reward from inspiring desire. Being direct spoils these sorts of games. They can be neutralized by simple honesty. It takes all the fun out of the chase if you just come out and say that you're attracted to them. It ruins the game. And they can't use plausible deniability to dance around on the edge of propriety anymore. So directness lets you know for sure if someone finds you attractive, and it also liberates you from time wasters and game players. Now, if you'd like to know more about how uncertainty can lead you into a spiral of limerent obsession and how to get out of it, check out this video next where I show you the key dangers to avoid.